Good morning, everybody, and welcome to Tuesday Training. I hope you're having a fantastic week. As always,
we are live from Austin, Texas, right here at Insurance Syndicate headquarters, and man, we have a great show for you.
Good morning. Good morning. What is happening? Happy Tuesday. Hope everybody's doing fantastic out there. If I was doing any better, I'd probably fall down in fits. Hope you guys are having a wonderful week as it's getting going. Second day of the week here with Tuesday. It is the jump off day, in my opinion. Mondays always kind of get ahead of the eight ball, and Tuesday's the day to really start to set the tone. And man, we have a lot of news to talk about today. A lot of news. I'm looking at about 12 different tabs of news articles that I've got queued up that I want to discuss with you guys. Outside of that, I'm just going to tell you that if you have any questions on stuff, drop them in the comments, and I'll try to address some of those as we go along. But yeah, it's going to be a heavy news show today. I've always got news for you guys, but man, you know, I think maybe that's a little bit of the state of the world that we're in right now when it comes to insurance, is that there's a lot of newsworthy stuff going on. So we're going to dive into some of that. As always, I want to give a big shout out to my partners, DFY CRM. For helping make this show possible, for sponsoring it, propping it up, and also for just being damn good partners in what they provide. Man, I'm a big fan of their CRM platform. We use the hell out of it. A lot of customizations that we've done in there, and we're now incorporating it with Mailbox Power for some upgraded direct mail campaigns. I'm going to tell you, man, if you're an agent out there and you don't have a CRM, you need to get one. CRM, if you don't already know, stands for Customer Relationship Management, which means if you don't have a good CRM, you're not managing your customer relationships very well. So if you're looking for one, check out DFY. They've got everything you need and a bag of chips. Give Tim, James, or Erica a holler over there, and they will get you a full demo to check it out. But with that said, man, I really wanted to just kind of dive into a lot of this news. As always, let me get some of this on the screen for you guys. As always, I've got some fraud. You know, I love to point out fraud, and there is no shortage of it again. So we're going to kick off real quick right here with this one. Boom. This is another guy basically doing DME. I mean, that's durable medical equipment seems to be one of the biggest areas of fraud that is a struggle. And this guy here, Milwaukee lab owner, sentenced in $2.2 million. This is one of the smaller ones that we've seen. Like I've shown you guys some fraud articles where guys are doing 20, 30, $100 million in fraud. So this guy's kind of a small timer, but they got him. He was doing an unnecessary drug testing scheme and getting Medicare kickbacks, basically. So it says here that a River Hills man was sentenced to 21 months in prison for paying health care kickbacks that defrauded Medicaid and Medicare programs of more than $2.2 million. Justin Drew Hansen received the sentence March 21 for violating the anti-kickback statute, according to the U.S. Attorney's Office for Eastern District of Wisconsin. He was ordered to pay more than $2.2 million in restitution and $75,000 in fines. It goes on to say that court records show Hansen and co-defendant Mohammed Kazim Ali owned Noah Associates, a Milwaukee area clinical laboratory. And from 2017 to 2020, they paid more than $400,000 in kickbacks to a substance abuse or substance use treatment clinic in exchange for referrals of Medicare and Medicaid patients. The tests were obviously not ordered by physicians, and they were not medically necessary. The scheme used sham agreements to conceal the fraud. So there's one guy out there, and we definitely have another one I want to drop real quick, and then we will get into some of the bigger stuff. But this one's a big one. Hialeah businessman likely sent $41 million in Medicare fraud money to Cuba. They prescribed so many skin grafts, they must think I am a whale, said the unknowing patient. So pretty simple one here. This man says a man used Halea companies to launder nearly $2 million as part of a larger $41 million Medicare fraud scheme. Agents said Edilberto Borges Morales, age 62, was detained and questioned about the scheme before he boarded a flight to Cuba on Thursday. But instead of the island nation, he landed himself in a federal jail cell. According to the complaint, the scheme involved fraudulent claims for durable medical equipment, or DME. Authorities allege that 3 South Florida medical equipment companies billed Medicare for a total of $41 million for equipment that was never provided. We've seen this numerous times, man, where these different durable medical equipment providers are out there billing Medicare for services, for equipment that was actually never provided to people. We've seen it in the form of COVID test kits, cancer screening kits, skin graft stuff, et cetera, et cetera. So there's definitely plenty of fraud out there, and this one is another big one at 41 million. And he's using that money and then laundering it over to Cuba, apparently. So a little crazy there. But moving along, a wee bit of good news for you guys. If you want to call it good news, I guess. I think it's kind of non-news personally. But if you're out there in the Medicare space, you probably already heard about this. Dropped on the 20th, just a few days ago. CMS reversed their decision to eliminate, shouldn't say eliminate, but to prevent brokers from assisting in the FEMA SEP code for plan changes. So a lot of you guys know that in areas that where people are affected by a federal emergency, wildfires, hurricanes, snowpocalypse, border crisis, whatever it might be, flooding, anytime those emergency declarations happen, if they believe there's a situation that it prevents Medicare beneficiaries from being able to exercise their enrollment period, whether it be their IEP, OEP, AEP, etc., then they get an SEP, a special election period, that they can utilize based on that emergency disaster. Now, it's always been the trend that we can facilitate that for them. Oh, you're in a disaster area. You haven't already used one of your previous enrollment periods, so this would apply to you. No problem. We can send the enrollment, drop the DST code for the SEP, and get it done. Piece of cake. And then they came out and said, hey, no, at the end of March, at the end of open enrollment period, you're not going to be able to do that. Any beneficiary who wants to try and qualify for the disaster SEP code to change their plan will have to contact Medicare directly, ask for approval, and then they will facilitate that plan change through Medicare. Well, Medicare reversed that and said, no, never mind. We change our mind. Agents can continue helping people with the disaster code, SEP DST. I'm of the opinion that they probably reversed this because they have fewer personnel now. Let's be honest, right? There's a big clean out going at the administration. A lot of government officials are no longer there. A lot of CMS people, I'm sure, have gotten the axe in some form or took the voluntary buyout to just quit on their own. So I'm of the opinion that they went ahead and flipped this back to reduce the administrative burden on CMS for people calling in trying to exercise their right to use this code. Is what it is. There are some agents that were super upset about the idea that CMS was taking this away from us. And no offense, man, but if your Medicare business relies on your ability to use the emergency disaster declaration for SEPs, you need to relook at your marketing plan. Seriously, like this should just be the occasional one-off that you help people with. It should definitely not be one of those business lanes that you're looking for constantly, right? Like trying to search down people that are using SEP DST is crazy. And wouldn't surprise me if some of those agents that were complaining about that are probably using it incorrectly and just using it to try to flip plans. Anyway, but going forward, hey, guess what? It's back on the table for you until further notice. I think they will probably take it away from us eventually, maybe when they get staffed up again, maybe when things get a little more status quo, so to speak. But for the time being, it is back on the table. So if you have someone that's affected by emergency disaster, you will still be able to help them out. So, and then speaking of federal disasters, there is one carrier I feel pretty confident in, Cigna, that is very good about sending out notifications on federal emergency disasters, where they're happening, what the incident dates are. They seem to be really well on top of it. WellCare sends out good notices on that as well. So I get emails regularly from them, as I'm sure you do, if you're appointed with them, that will lay out those disasters for you. So moving along. Oklahoma is up for a surprise, it seems. Right here, this just came in. Now, this is from Newsweek. Newsweek tends to be a little hyperbolic, but they're right on point here. 300,000 Oklahomans could see their health insurance costs rise by 65%. And that is based on coming January 26th. Why, you ask? Well, about 300,000 Oklahomans rely on the ACA marketplace for health insurance, and they're likely going to see some very large premium spikes come 2026. And the projected increase stems from the scheduled expiration of enhanced federal subsidies known as advanced premium tax credits. Those are set to end on December 31st, unless Congress, of course, intervenes and extends them. So why does this matter? Well, the enhanced subsidies introduced on the American Rescue Plan Act and extended through the Inflation Reduction Act have helped keep monthly premiums low for marketplace users. On average, Oklahomans pay about $58 a month for a benchmark silver plan, but without the subsidies, that figure is projected to jump to $153 per month, otherwise a 65% increase, according to the Oklahoma DOI. So what to know? Well, in a news release on the 19th, Commissioner Glenn Mulready of the Oklahoma Department of Insurance warned that permanent extension of $338 billion in federal aid was looking more unlikely, and urged state residents and leaders to prepare for significant changes in health insurance costs if no action is taken. Enrollment in Oklahoma's ACA marketplace surged 75% between 2021 and 2024, thanks to the federal subsidies, with many enrollees paying nothing monthly for their coverage. If those subsidies expire, younger and healthier individuals may be the first to exit the marketplace because of affordability concerns. So Oklahoma is not the only state that's really facing that. That is the one that they centered on here. Those premium tax credits are going to apply to a lot of different states if those expire, if they're not extended. And based on what we all hear in regards to the administration, their desire to cut spending, cut government spending, they continue to call it fraud, waste, and abuse. But I could definitely see them rolling back some of these tax credits as well, which is certainly going to drive up premiums, and it's certainly going to drive down the penetration of people that are actually covered under marketplace plans. So keep your eyes peeled on that. And as I get more, I'll certainly let you guys know. But I don't know that this article is necessarily ready for the group. Doesn't have a lot of meat to it. It's basically just telling us like, hey, if these premium tax credits don't get extended, the cost of insurance is going up. Moving along. You may have heard this was just announced, but Cigna closed their $3.3 billion sale of their Medicare plans to HCSC. HCSC is the company that owns Blue Cross, right? Well, you probably heard about this if you're in the Medicare space, unless you live under a rock, but Cigna basically offloaded their entire Medicare platform to HCSC, the company that owns Blue Cross. That includes the Cigna HealthSpring Medicare Advantage plans, the Cigna HealthSpring drug plans, and all of the Cigna supplemental benefits portfolio. Their Medicare supplement, their final expense products, their hospital indemnity, dental, vision, hearing, everything that is under both their American Retirement Life, their Cigna National, and their Loyal American contracts, and the HealthSpring. Everything is now under Blue Cross. Done. I was actually sitting with Cigna reps yesterday around lunchtime, hanging out with a few of them, and just kind of talked to them about it. You know, I was like, well, if Cigna sold all their business to Blue Cross, like, aren't you guys jobless? And they're like, no, we all work for Blue Cross now. We all work for HCSC now. So a couple of things. Number one, the plans are going to stay as they are, obviously going through the rest of this year. my understanding in speaking with them, and none of this is perfectly confirmed, but like, come on, man, all signs point to yes. Cigna is likely, will probably, this is a rumor, speculation, and a lot of us kind of believe this already, that Cigna offloaded all of their Medicare stuff so that they can come back around the other side and acquire Humana's Medicare platform. They tried to acquire Humana a few years ago, and it was kiboshed. I guess the monopoly, whatever they call it, the monopoly rules that they don't allow. So a judge kiboshed that, said that's too big, that's too much consolidation under one brand. So they dropped that deal. Cigna came around, sold all of their Medicare platform now to Blue Cross or HCSC, and the rumor has it that they're probably going to be angling for Humana's business. Another thing that they tell me, and we don't know exactly what the details are, that probably sometime in 2026, we're going to see these plans rebranded as something else under HCSC. They're not going to eliminate them. They're not just going to absorb them into the Blue Cross footprint. My understanding is that they're going to re-roll out that platform, Cigna's Medicare platform, under a new brand. Don't know. But we do know that that sale has now been closed for $3.3 billion. So for the time being, it's business as usual with Cigna and Blue Cross. But we should buckle up and expect some pretty significant changes next year on that plan. Hopefully, it doesn't degrade the current Cigna health plans that are out there, the HealthSpring plans. Cigna HealthSpring really made their product really attractive this year. And I'm kind of the opinion they purposely made it hyper attractive to drive up enrollment to help maybe facilitate this sale. Just guessing there, probably a pretty educated guess. So I'm hoping that once HCSC gets their hands fully on these plans and they start looking at how to revamp them for next year or years in the future, that they don't shred the plans so that now we have to go back and move all those people that we signed up for HealthSpring, because we wrote a lot more HealthSpring this year than we have in previous years. So stay tuned for more details on that one, but definitely a big deal. And I fully expect Cigna to come around here pretty soon and start pitching Humana as well. We'll find out. More stuff. This one is not the greatest of news, but it is what it is, man. I have been telling a lot of the agents that I work with, like, buckle up, because these next 6 months for sure, as we roll in closer to AEP, is going to get wild. You're going to see some slowdowns. You're going to see some breakdowns. You're going to see some problems as this giant shift is happening. So U.S. says Social Security recipients will need to visit offices to get their benefits as DOGE closes offices nationwide. The policy shift comes after an internal memo leaked, casting doubt on the effectiveness of the agency strategy. Okay, is what it is. But here's what is true. This week, the agency announced that it will no longer allow new benefit recipients to verify their identities over the phone. So, in other words, if you have a Medicare beneficiary that is turning 65 and they are just now qualifying for Medicare, they will not be able to contact Social Security by phone and enroll. Is basically what that means. They're going to have to either make an appointment and go to an office that is hopefully still open, or they're going to have to do it online using the ID.me verification software. It's not that difficult, I promise. Now, if you're a 77-year-old Spanish language recipient, like a lot of the people that we deal with, might be a little more difficult for you, right? Maybe you need some good plugins on your Chrome browser or whatever that help flip some of that language for you, but it is not that difficult, right? They need a webcam because it's going to have to take pictures of them, right? They need a picture of their ID, and they need a good amount of their personal identification. If you've ever used the ID.me platform for any purpose, right? It's not that difficult. It's just a handful of steps you got to go through, right? You got to set up your login. You got to set up your account. You got to get upload pictures of your ID. You have to use a webcam that takes photos of you to verify it against your ID. So it can be a tad tedious. I've walked beneficiaries through it right here in my office and helped them get all signed up. But that is where they're headed with it, right? They want you to be able to simply verify your ID online using that software platform. That will make sure that, number one, your Social Security benefits are in effect. And it also will be the process to get you enrolled in Medicare now, basically. I mean, it's already the process. It's already there. But now they're saying, hey, this is the only way you can do it. You're either going to have to do it online using that software package, or you're going to have to book an appointment and come visit us in person. Those are the only options. You will not be able to fully enroll by phone anymore. Fairly simple. So, I mean, that's going to create some tedium for some folks. That's going to create some problems for some folks. A savvy agent will probably go create a video on this and do a training demo on how to get yourself through that ID.me software package in the best way that you can. I'm not sure the easiest way to create that, probably pretty simple, just do a Loom video or something of maybe yourself going through it or something to that effect. But a savvy agent would probably use that and maybe even use it as lead generation, but certainly for retention and being able to take care of their folks. So we will see how that continues to develop. This is a bit of a opinionated article in a negative slant, so I'm not going to rip through the whole thing, but the fact remains that going forward, anybody who wants to qualify for benefits through the Social Security Administration, whether it's your SSI benefits, your SSDI benefits, or enrolling in Medicare, you're going to have to go through that ID.me verification online, or you're going to have to go to a local office that may hopefully still be staffed and open. And if you're not able to, let's just be honest, if you're not able to do it online and your only option is to go visit a local office and do it in person, because that's your only skill set or whatever the situation is, you're probably going to struggle because some of those offices are closed. Some of those offices are short-staffed. Appointment times are going to be lengthy. Like you're trying to get your benefits going now, but the first appointment you can get, it's 45 days from now or whatever it might be. You very well may run into some of those problems. So if I'm an agent and I'm focused in the T65 market of Medicare, I am going to press those people to let's get it going now. Like your 90-day IEP starts now. We know we're going to move to Medicare. Let's get the process going because it could easily take more than 90 days in some cases, the way that things are shaping up. I'm hoping that's not the case. I'm hoping they get their handle on this pretty fast and we don't see massive slowdowns. But most likely we will definitely see some slowdowns, some hiccups for people that are new to the system and coming in, not to mention all the people that need to requalify or whatever it might be. So is what it is. What else do we have here? I've got a handful of items open. I'm just going to pick and choose which ones I like here for the moment that I want to do next. Let's talk about this one. This is some good news and pretty interesting. I like looking at healthcare tech as well. And I found this piece of tech that I found pretty interesting. A company called Inspiron banked $35 million in fundraising to scale an AI-powered senior living technology. This is pretty cool. And this is definitely some of the areas that we're headed. It's a little freaky at the same time when I tell you what's going on here. In short, let me just sum up really well. Imagine an Alexa Echo Dot that's mounted now to your wall, includes the emergency response button, or doesn't even include that because now it's automatically, it's all based on AI. Basically, it's going to monitor the entire situation that's happening in your room, right? Maybe if you're in an assisted living facility, which is kind of where this is, this tech is targeted. It's not necessarily for take-home tech, although it probably will be at one point. Right now, it's designed the way they've got it for assisted living facilities. So it's going to be mounted to the wall. It's going to monitor whatever is happening in that building or in that room. And it will pick up when emergencies happen that person needs to be addressed, and will automatically contact the people within the assisted living facility, send out a 911 call, whatever it wants, is basically where they're going. But I'll just go through a few portions of this article for you. It says the demand for senior care services is poised for intense growth in the next 10 years as the baby boomer generation enters retirement. By 2030, an estimated 73 million baby boomers will be 65 or older, and many of these individuals will need senior housing and care. Advanced technology in senior living has not kept pace with this growth, and companies see opportunities to use artificial intelligence to build a new type of resident care. Health tech company Inspiron developed intelligent AI-powered solutions for senior living that integrates care planning, resident safety, staff efficiency, and emergency call functionalities all into one system. Right? So again, it goes on, says they picked up $35 million in funding and a Series A funding to help start scaling their technology. But it combines technology with the human side of care, they say, and it will allow us to use humanity to amplify the best that caregivers have to offer. I think we're at the new age where technology can play a role in making things more efficient, more impactful, and allowing the same number of staff members to keep a larger population much safer by automating the safety process. So basically, again, here it says the AI-driven ecosystem combines software with proprietary hardware centered around the company's AUGI Care Companion device, which stands for Augmented Intelligence. The device is installed in the senior living's residence rooms to collect information about the physical space. It knows who's in the room, what people are doing in the room, and it also collects useful information that reflect the quality of care as well as the overall clinical efficiency of the organization. We take all that and we create dashboards and data that allow senior living organizations to have a much better handle on their overall profitability as well as clinical efficiency. Pretty slick. So that is a pretty neat thing. We'll probably see that start to roll out in assisted living centers at some point in the future. And who knows, there will likely be a home version of it as well. So I'm going to put that article in the group for sure. You guys can check that out a little closer. And it's definitely something that I found interesting. So moving along, let's look at this one, man. This is from the Motley Fool. Could a recession affect Medicare? Well, yes, it could. 100%. And if you've been around Medicare long enough, you would understand that absolutely it could. And there's a couple of really big ways that it could. Give greater than 50%, right? That's the odds. Those are the odds double line capital Jeff Gundlach, who some call the bond king, gives for a U.S. recession with the next few quarters. Greater than 50% chance, he says, that we're headed for a U.S. recession in the next few quarters. So that could be as early as second quarter 2026, as an example. And he thinks that the probability of a recession is higher than what most people believe. But that's not what I'm talking about. I'm not just here to talk about the probabilities that we are headed for a recession, but how would that affect Medicare? And this article outlines it pretty well, but it's fairly simple. If you have a recession, right, that means that unemployment goes up. Anytime we're in a recession, that means unemployment goes up almost every time. If unemployment goes up, then that's fewer employees paying taxes into Social Security and into the Medicare Part A trust fund. Yet, you'll also have a group of seniors, 65 and older, that are still working because they haven't yet decided to retire. But now they're forced into unemployment due to a recession, and now they're forced onto Medicare. So now you have fewer dollars going into Medicare, more dollars going out of Medicare. Fairly simple economics. So that's basically what this whole article talks about in there, is that basic concept that obviously the Medicare Part A is funded by FICA payroll taxes. So if we have fewer FICA payroll taxes going in, but we have more beneficiaries wanting to pull out, then obviously that is an issue for Medicare, right? And that will go out. I'll put this article in there. You guys can check it out a little closer to give you some ideas, but that is basically pretty simple idea of it, right? We got less money going in, more money coming out. That is a problem. So yes, a recession could definitely affect Medicare 100%. Whew, this one is interesting. I pulled this one off a stat. I'll put this in the, I'm not going to put this one in the group because Stat has a paywall behind it. I am a member, or I'm subscribed to Stat, so I can read some of these articles and look at them. But it's talking, this article goes through a few items. Some of it is anticipation of what is Medicare Advantage going to look like next year, because there's some wild stuff going on. And then it talks about a couple of things that are I wouldn't expect to see, but it's pretty interesting. So anyway, let's jump into a little bit of this real quick. Within the next 2 weeks, it kicks off right here, the dawn of a new risk adjustment era, because that is exactly where we're at right now with Medicare Advantage. Within the next 2 weeks, the Trump administration will roll out the final Medicare Advantage policies and payment rates for 2026. I'm surprised we're getting them that quick, but I'm excited. So I want to find out what the hell they're going to do with Medicare Advantage next year. But it says that, again, we're about a couple of weeks away. Sometime in the next couple of weeks, the Trump administration will roll out the final Medicare Advantage policies and payment rates. So that's going to include the risk adjustment payment rates, right, for providers. That probably won't include our rates, like what we get paid yet, but it may give us some idea on where we're headed. So if we see maybe a big change in the risk adjustment model, if we see maybe a reduction in federal subsidies, possibly to Medicare Advantage plans, there's a possibility we could see a reduction in commissions on Medicare Advantage plans for the first time in at least 10 years. Because since 2014, our commissions have gone up every single year. Since 2014, right? Commissions to agents selling Medicare Advantage plans have gone up. I don't have the numbers in front of me for exactly what commissions were around 2014. In my brain, I want to say they were like $389 or something, plus or minus. Now we're getting 626. So I'm not sure what they're going to do, but I'm just trying to, and I'm not trying to say the sky is falling or anything like that, right? If you want my real opinion, I think we're somewhat overpaid a little bit anyway in the Medicare space. Shh, don't tell anybody I said that. But again, depending on what they do with the risk adjustment model, depending on what they decide to do with the government subsidization of Medicare Advantage, and their desire, like we already know, they have a very heavy-handed desire on reducing expenses. So if they can reduce their reimbursement payments to Medicare Advantage by, or maybe if they can maintain those, they say, well, we can't increase the reimbursement rates yet, but we can at least pay you the same reimbursement rates. But the only way we could do that is, one, we got to tweak the risk adjustment model a little bit, and we could reduce agent commissions, for example. That's certainly a possibility. That is one of the levers that they can pull. So don't be surprised if later this year you get all the new payment rates and the data for Medicare Advantage and you see commissions pulled back to like $550 an app or something like that. I'm just speculating. I don't know. I'm just telling you, don't be surprised and don't be upset if it happens, because it could happen. But I'm all for it. I'm not all for making less money. I am all for it if it takes reducing agent commissions a little bit to improve Medicare Advantage to where it takes better care of seniors, provides better benefits, is more cost efficient, and can also improve health outcomes. I am all for it, because then that just means that, hey, I might be making less money per app, but I'm going to be able to sell more apps, so it should wipe itself out. But jumping in this, says right here in the second paragraph, the Biden administration released a proposal in January saying the new risk adjustment model, known as V28, in industry parlance, it says right there, known as V28, will be 100% in place by 2026. Insurers use risk adjustment to get a sense of how sick someone is, and they get paid more if someone has more health conditions. That's been that problem with the upcoding, right? United Healthcare just got on the other end of a lawsuit with upcoding. There's been other groups out there, but that's been one of the issues that upcoding. If you have more health conditions, the Medicare Advantage plan gets more money, right? As well as the doctors. Over the past 2 years, the new risk adjustment model has been blended with the older one, a concession that the Biden administration made to get the industry on board with the change. As I wrote in January, if the Trump administration pauses this change, Medicare Advantage insurers would get an additional $3.4 billion, which are not necessary to support stability in the program, CMS stated that in a fact sheet. I combed through lobbyers, and there's a bunch of information on this guy's talking about different carriers that he's talked to and lobbying groups that are against or for. Most of them are not super excited about V28 risk model adjustment. I don't know all of the details that V28 covers, but it's the new risk adjustment model and how Medicare Advantage plans are reimbursed. But it says right here pretty simply, a lot of the carriers, they're not super excited about V28 because they know that it's likely going to mean less money in their pockets, right? Pretty simple. It goes on for a couple more things. It talks about problems in the rural emergency hospital market, which we know is something that's going on. But the thing that I didn't see coming, I guess, but is interesting that they bring it up. They talk about, obviously, the murder of Brian Thompson, the CEO from United Healthcare that was killed last December, and how now personal security for executives across healthcare has become a new norm. And new financial disclosures from health insurance companies just show how much executive security has become a cost of doing business, although much of the spending may actually date back to before Thompson's death. Molina Healthcare spent almost $700,000 on security last year for CEO Joe Zubretsky, who never previously had security costs covered by Molina. Cigna previously paid for CEO David Cordani's security system monitoring and maintenance, and that usually totaled a couple $100,000. But Cigna isn't breaking out security costs for executives anymore. Of course, they just sold to Blue Cross. But in fact, Cigna said providing high-end security detail for executives is just the way of life and a sunk cost moving forward. Costs associated with providing personal security to our named executive officers are not reflected herein as prerequisites. Those executives are highly valued, visible assets of the company, and as such, we view costs associated with their safety and security as being integrally related and directly related to the performance of their executive duties. Okay, moving along. One more in this article. Talk about the GLP-1 effect. As we know, GLP-1s have become super popular. People are taking GLP-1s like Wegovy, like Ozempic, et cetera, in an effort to lose weight. Some of them are certainly taking them for other reasons like diabetes, et cetera. But many of them are taking them for obesity. Pretty interesting. It says here that a company that performs things like fat removal and other body sculpting procedures explained earlier this month how GLP-1 drugs are increasing demand for other services. The opportunity exists to leverage our centers and people to further capture our addressable marketplace. An example of this is skin tightening services, which we plan to pilot in the second quarter. This way, we tap into the complementary impact of GLP-1, which has led to an increased demand for skin tightening. Pretty interesting. It doesn't go on having that covered by Medicare or anything like that. It just talks about, hey, this whole craze in GLP-1 is now starting additional services or demand for additional services. One of those certainly being skin tightening services. And then finally, what is a disaster? Well, over the past year or so, the health insurance industry has initiated roughly 1 billion lawsuits tied to Medicare Advantage plans. I'm going to read that again. Come on, man. This can't be right. This has got to be just being a little bit hyperbolic here. But there's no quotation marks on it, which kind of bugged me. But it says, over the past year or so, the health insurance industry has initiated roughly 1 billion lawsuits tied to Medicare Advantage. 1 billion? That seems a little high. 1 million? Even 1 million lawsuits? And just in the past year or so. Come on, man. That dude's being hyperbolic. But after punting on one of them, the Trump administration appears willing to defend the government in another. Florida Blue is one of 8 active insurers suing HHS, the Health and Human Services, and CMS over MA star ratings. So there's been a handful of lawsuits on MA star ratings over the last couple of years. Going by memory, Scan won their lawsuit. Anthem won their lawsuit. And United Healthcare won their lawsuit. So my understanding is they are now going to have the opportunity to be re-rated and have their star ratings back to where they probably should have been in the first place. The insurer alleges its scores were unfairly lowered and bonus money was unfairly withheld. So again, why are star ratings so important to MA plans? They get more money. It's all about the money. The higher your star ratings are, the bigger your reimbursements are. Right? So the insurer alleges its scores were unfairly lowered and bonus money unfairly withheld because torrential flooding in Florida 2 years ago made it more difficult for its members to get care and drugs. The government gives a pass on star ratings if a natural disaster disrupts things. But the Trump administration's Department of Justice, along with the career HHS attorneys, argued that the law is clear in a new brief. If HHS declares an actual public health emergency due to natural disaster, a company's Medicare Advantage star ratings will not be penalized. But in Florida, the flooding was not designated a public health emergency by HHS, so MA plans don't qualify for the exemption. And then you have a few odds and ends here. None of these are really all that exciting to me. That was the big thing that I saw that was interesting there was that, I wasn't aware personally that your star ratings get a pass, right, if service or care was diminished because of a federal disaster. Makes sense. But they're saying that Florida Blue actually doesn't qualify in this case because that flooding was not designated a public health emergency. So they are suing the government to try to get that corrected. We will see if they win that. Next up, you're not going to like some of the stuff I tell you in this one, I promise you, especially if you're an agent out there in the Medicare Advantage world. This is from the Medicare Rights Center. That is a nonprofit group that does a lot of training on Medicare for agents. If you're not familiar with it, it's built into the Agent Accelerator platform. You can go in there and actually do training on Medicare to kind of learn it a little better, self-quizzes. And they also purport news and push it around. So here's where we go. This is a new KFF report. Now, you may remember last week I talked a little bit about this report, right? They're peeling off of that. A new KFF report. KFF is the Kaiser Family Foundation. If you're an agent out there in the health insurance world, the Medicare world, you should be following Kaiser Family Foundation. They put out some of the best articles, some of the best analysis of the health insurance marketplace, period. But anyway, the Kaiser Family Foundation report examines the increased role of Medicare Advantage in the coverage landscape and the potential impact of Trump administration policies on MA enrollment and cost growth. You may remember this article, right? Because like I said, I'm going to pop it up real quick. It should be, I'm pretty sure I put it in the group. This article here, right? Will the Trump administration fast track the privatization of Medicare? And I mentioned last week, I hate the title because Medicare is already privatized. Almost 53% of people are enrolled in a private Medicare plan. So that's the majority. So Medicare is already privatized. What they're really getting at is, will he further the privatization of Medicare? Will he expand it? Right? So going back to this one, this article in Medicare Rights is talking about that right there, right? They're talking about that report and that analysis by KFFF. And here's some key things that they hit on. The share of Medicare beneficiaries with MA has more than doubled since 2010. Kaiser Family Foundation notes that while this enrollment growth is likely due to many factors, none may be greater than the appeal of potentially lower costs and extra benefits like dental coverage, debit cards offered by Medicare Advantage plans, and aggressively marketed by brokers and insurers. However, these enticements are largely paid for by inflated payments to MA plans. In other words, this is the part as I'm reading this article, this is the part that's kind of got me thinking. In other words, public Medicare dollars are funding extras for MA enrollees that are unavailable to people with original Medicare. We all know that. If you're an agent out there in the Medicare Advantage space, you already know that a Medicare Advantage plan has a lot of sizzle and pop on it with supplemental benefits that people under original Medicare don't get. I mean, shoot, a Medicare Advantage plan will cover, there's a lot of benefits that a Medicare Advantage plans cover that original Medicare does not. Acupuncture, routine chiropractic, dental, vision, hearing. Drugs are built into the plans. Supplemental benefits for grocery cards, OTC benefits. A lot of that stuff, right? Having someone come in and put guardrails up in your or on your shower, things like that, right? Handles or whatever, all of that type of stuff. Cleaning devices, breathing devices, humidifiers, and whatever. If you're COPD and your plan provides stuff like that, so that's exactly what they're targeting here. Public. So here's their beef: public Medicare dollars, right? I'm paying into the Medicare Advantage system, or the Medicare system, I should say, right? My taxes, you are too. So that's public tax dollars. People on original Medicare, which is what those tax dollars were originally designed to fund, they don't get any of this stuff. But Medicare Advantage enrollees are getting all these extras funded first by our tax dollars that go into Medicare and then get pushed over here. The primary source, or actually, let's start back. In other words, public Medicare dollars are funding extras for MA enrollees that are unavailable to people with original Medicare. According to a recent report from MedPAC, the Medicare Payment Advisory Commission, that's an independent agency that advises Congress on Medicare payment issues. Medicare overpayments are the primary source of funding for supplemental benefits and better financial protection for MA enrollees relative to beneficiaries in fee-for-service. In 2025, MedPAC estimates that Medicare will pay 20% more for MA enrollees than for similar people enrolled in original Medicare, at a cost of about $84 billion. These XX dollars have system-wide implications, raising taxpayer costs in Part B premiums by about $13 billion this year alone, while worsening Medicare sustainability for current and future enrollees. So the Inflation Reduction Act started to address some of this. And I think it may even go back a little bit before that. But the Inflation Reduction Act was the one that really locked down some safety measures, so to speak. So some of the safety measures that IRA was trying to put in place to reduce this problem was, one, Medicare Advantage carriers have to provide reporting. I believe it is in 6 months. It might be every quarter. I forget now, because there's a couple of angles on this. Reporting that shows that their supplemental benefits, the nice little sizzle and pop, the extras that they're talking about here, are not only medically necessary to the improved outcome, the health outcome of that individual, but also that they're getting utilized, that they're not just benefits that are on the plan for the plan's sake to make it look glorious so they can get more enrollees, but that they're actually being utilized. So number one, they have to prove that they're getting utilized, and two, they have to prove that it is medically necessary to improve the health outcome of the individual receiving those supplemental benefits. With those, in my opinion, with those measures in place, that should theoretically reduce the number of supplemental benefits we see on plans, because they're only going to put the ones on that are actually getting used and can improve health outcomes. And number two, should reduce cost. But nonetheless, MedPAC is saying that we're going to spend about 20% more on MA enrollees because of supplemental benefits and the higher payment from original Medicare to MA plans. Key questions policymakers should address. Critically, the shift towards MA is occurring, even though information about how the plans work for people is limited, and much of what we do know is concerning. Further, it is happening in a largely unexamined way. KFF raises important and increasingly urgent questions about MA that policymakers are still not debating, such as, should the payment system for Medicare Advantage plans be modified? And if so, how and to what end? What should the role of traditional Medicare be nationwide and in rural areas where fewer beneficiaries are enrolled in Medicare Advantage? Should traditional Medicare be strengthened with additional benefits and an out-of-pocket cap? So beneficiaries have then a more meaningful choice when Medicare coverage options. Now, if they were to do that, if they were to increase additional benefits inside of Medicare and add an out-of-pocket cap, Part B premiums are going up. Guarantee that, right? Your Medicare taxes are probably going up to cover that cost as well. Just saying. Another question that it says, what more should be done to help beneficiaries understand the trade-offs between traditional Medicare and Medicare Advantage, including the potential for extra benefits and lower cost in Medicare Advantage versus challenges that may arise due to limited provider networks and PA requirements? I'm taking that group of questions to Medicarians with me next week, and I'm going to bring them up in some panels and some other folks and see what happens, see what some people say, and get some opinions on that side of it. It goes through all the policy choices as well. It goes through the need for public debate. A lot of information in here. And yeah, we're definitely at a crux right now. We're going to see some massive changes. We're already seeing that at some levels, just at the Social Security level, much less what we're going to see further. So buckle your seatbelts, man. We're in for a solid, like I said, 6 months are going to be good, but now I would say the next 18 months are really going to be wild. But for every challenge brings opportunity and growth, man. You just got to find your way to pivot. So good article. I'm definitely putting this one in the group. I don't really like what they said about brokers in there, but they're not lying. Yeah, a lot of brokers are out there aggressively marketing supplemental benefits. And I got one more, and that'll be the day, because, yeah, this has been a long news day, but let's get this one going. Boom, boom, boom. So this is out of Modern Healthcare. Again, I can put this in the group, but it's got a paywall behind it. If you are not subscribed to Modern Healthcare, you won't be able to read the whole thing. But this is pretty interesting, and I like this one. So pictured here is a lady by the name of Barb Jacobs-Meyer. She's the president and CEO of Inhabit Home Health and Hospice. Now, one of the things we hear a lot, and a matter of fact, I should go show you that picture, but I'm not. If you're a Medicare event, if you're an agent in the Medicare space, you've probably, if you've been in here long enough, you've probably encountered a nurse or someone in the home healthcare world or skilled nursing facility world that has badmouthed Medicare Advantage plans, right? Why do they badmouth them? Well, they badmouth them because of acceptance, prior authorization, reimbursement rates, etc. Right? Anyway, here we go. Inhabit Home Health and Hospice CEO Barb Jacobs-Meyer has been going to the mat with insurers over patient access to home-based services with a pay-to-play approach. With demand for home health care increasing, and yes, it has. Home health care has been a hot topic, especially this last year, right? The other presidential candidate that ran this last year, that was one of her talking points, was that she was going to get home health care included in original Medicare. Now, I knew she wasn't, because I knew that there was no way that original Medicare could afford it. It's impossible. I don't know about impossible. Impossible without raising the cost of Medicare, certainly. But it's been a hot topic. And I think it is something that we should find better ways to get taken care of. I'm still pissed off at California for removing all supplemental health insurance products, including products like a home health care product, so that people can actually take good care of themselves and their family members and not just push them over to Medi-Cal. But anyway, here we go. With demand for home health care increasing and Medicare Advantage enrollment surpassing traditional Medicare, Inhabit adopted a strategy 3 years ago that guarantees patient access to home health care services in exchange for Medicare Advantage payment rates that are about 80% of what traditional fee-for-service Medicare pays. So it's a little less, but at least she's finding Medicare Advantage plans to pay her and reimburse her for those home health care payments, right? Instead of saying, nope, we don't do home health care, we don't do whatever. Like, she's finding companies that are willing to pay her for that service. She said the company's payer innovation team has negotiated 76 contracts with insurers that offer better Medicare Advantage reimbursements. Jacobs-Meyer said the result is a win-win for Inhabit, insurers, and for Medicare Advantage enrollees. Dallas-based Inhabit is one of the nation's largest home care companies with 255 home health care locations and 115 hospice locations across 34 states. Encompass Health, a facility-based rehab company, spun off Enhabit as a separate company back in July of 22. Their strategy has proven to be a gamble. Last August, the company cut off home care access for United Healthcare Medicare Advantage members after the two companies reached an impasse during contract negotiations. Enhabit and United Healthcare negotiated a new contract last December that went into effect January 1, but they did lose some business from their largest payer in the last few months. They said that in an interview, staffing shortages and low fee-for-service Medicare rates are forcing home health providers to make some tough decisions, including prioritizing patients with better paying health plans and closing poor performing branches. But despite the challenges, Jacobsmeyer said Enhabit is still opening new locations and could add new service lines. So I'm going to hit this again because this is something I've talked about a few times over the last year or so. Staffing shortages, low fee for service Medicare rates, right? So Medicare has continued to reduce the reimbursement rates under original Medicare fee for service for hospice, for hospitals, et cetera. There's a whole article on the American Medical Association and the American Hospital Association that I brought up in the last couple of weeks, talking about the fact that reimbursement rates in hospital stays is dropping again. Reimbursement rates in hospice, reimbursement rates in home health care or skilled nursing facility is going down, right? So they're losing staff, number one. They're low fee-for-service rates are reimbursement. So they're making less money when they actually house original Medicare folks. But then they have a problem with Medicare Advantage because they have to deal with prior authorization. They have to deal with tighter networks. So you have home healthcare facilities or skilled nursing facilities. They're like, well, shit, if we go to Medicare Advantage, we're going to make more money on a reimbursement side, but we have to sign a contract and get in their network and do all of that stuff. And we have to deal with their prior authorization process and all of that garbage. Or we can just go to the original Medicare where we don't have to worry about network stuff and all of that, but we get paid less. And because we get paid less, we can't hire as much staff to take care. So it's a conundrum for them. So again, home health care is a hot topic. This lady is doing something about it, trying to create a situation where, hey, I can go out there and I can get more Medicare Advantage companies on board with us so that they can properly provide home health care services, or so that we can properly provide home health care services and get a proper reimbursement rate. And now Medicare Advantage plans can include those benefits in their product and expand what they need there. She's on to something. I'm excited about it, and I hope that she's able to continue it in some level. Couple of more things. They asked her some questions in here, and this will kind of go for a little more. Do providers have more leverage with insurers as demand for home-based care increases? Well, it says the plans, right, the Medicare Advantage plans, the plans are still in the driver's seat. But with more beneficiaries choosing Medicare Advantage, enrollees are having access issues. Insurers are hearing complaints from the acute care hospitals that they can't get patients discharged. Patients are sitting in hospital beds because they can't get a home health care company to take them. What we have said to insurers is that if you want us to prioritize your patient, then you are going to have to pay me for the value. You are buying access, and you have to be willing to pay for the access. I think the pendulum has swung a little bit in our favor. I think since half of all Medicare eligible beneficiaries are now in Medicare Advantage plans, insurers are feeling the pressure of being able to access good quality home health care providers. Boom. Give me a second. I think that was the only one. Next one here. Is it more advantageous negotiating Medicare Advantage contracts that pay per visit? Yeah, this is the one. That pay per visit or per episode, right? So are they getting reimbursed for an episodic period of time that you're stuck in there, or is it just per visit? We always go in wanting episodic payment reimbursement because we can use our clinical decision tools, right? This is the home healthcare provider talking. We can use our clinical decision tools to decide what the right care plan is and the right number of visits. And we take full responsibility for the quality outcome. Okay, does that make sense? The home health care provider, they want an episodic reimbursement rate. If when that person gets put in, right, they are going to get reimbursed for whatever the episode is. They are the ones that get to decide, hey, this person's going to need 9 visits, 4 visits, 18 visits, whatever it might be, based on their situation. And that we, as the home health care provider, will take 100% responsibility for the quality outcome. But when plans pay us per visit, we're kind of stuck because now we have to follow what the plan believes is the correct number of visits for that patient. And many times, well, it's not the right visit plan for the patient. Some patients need more, some need less. The per visit model puts the onus on the plan for quality outcomes because there are times when a patient needs to be seen more frequently than what they would approve. Can't say I disagree with her there. I am not a fan of the insurance company or the plan dictating what they think my quality outcome should be. And I said this last week. I'm a little overtime, but I said this last week when I made a statement or when I was talking about my scripting when I sell Medicare supplement plans, right? If your Medicare Advantage plan, and believe me, we sell a lot of Medicare Advantage plans over here. It's the number one product that we sell in our agency. My personal book, mostly MedSup. My agency, mostly MA. So we do our best to try to round them out with all the proper needs. But anyway, here's where I'm going. If you believe that Medicare supplement is a better product, right? And this is one of the cases, I've talked about this before, and I'm going to say it again. I am not a fan, right? Because I'm a control freak. I like my independence. I'm a freedom junkie. I don't want an insurance company or an insurance plan dictating the quality of my health care. I want to dictate the quality of my health care. I want my doctor or my provider to help dictate the quality of my health care, right? That's what I want. Other people, maybe not so much. Maybe they're fine, right, with that. But I think most people would, when they think of the thoughts like, hey, when it comes to the quality of your health care, do you think your provider should be the one dictating the quality of your health outcome? Or do you think your insurance company should be the one dictating the quality of your health outcome? And that's a big part of what she's driving out there with the difference between the reimbursement being episodic, where they can choose the number of visits that person needs, or the reimbursement rate being based on number of visits, where the plan says, oh, for this condition, we only pay for this many visits because that's what everybody needs, even though everybody is uniquely different. So pretty interesting there. I'm going to put that article in the group. I'm a little over time. I appreciate you guys sticking in there with me. Lots of news today. Lots of news. I'm working on some upcoming guests. I'm going to keep them under wraps until I get them confirmed. But we're definitely going to have some awesome stuff kicking out second quarter of Tuesday training. So get excited. Until then, man, you guys have yourselves an awesome Tuesday. Have yourselves some awesome week. And go make some money. Go make some enrollments. Grow your business. We'll see you next time for Tuesday training. Have a great one.